Theft and vandalism. This is lecture 17. The elements of theft include the taking and carrying away of property of another without consent of the owner, with specific intent to permanently deprive the owner of the property. Crime classifications include grand theft, which is a felony, and petty theft, which is a misdemeanor. The first thing we need to talk about is taking and aspiration. Now, aspiration means that you have control and dominion over the property. So to constitute the necessary aspiration, the thief must move the property so that in some degree it occupies a change in location, and the conditions must be such that the theft secures such dominion over the property as to be able to carry it away. The thief also, intending to steal an overcoat, here's an example. This one thief thought he was going to steal an overcoat. He grabs the overcoat, tries to pull it off of the dummy, but it's fastened by a chain. And not having obtained dominion or control over the coat, there was no aspiration, resulting in no larceny. And that's in People versus Meyer. Now, another word for theft is larceny, so you need to know that because they may be in testing in the future. So, dominion control of the property is secured, and there be any movement of the property from place it's occupied to another place, even though the distance it was moved was only a matter of inches. That's going to be enough to show aspiration. If I'm trying to steal a key and I'm slowly sliding the key down the top of a counter, and I move it 3 or 4 inches from where it originally was with the intent to steal it, I have control and dominion over that key. Another example could be merely grasping the handle of a suitcase with the intent to steal it would not be aspiration, but merely an attempt. But once the theft has raised or moved that suitcase from its original place, the theft is complete. That's in People versus Davis. It's not necessary that the aspiration go to the extent of removing the property from the premises. It could be where the person has the property on them and they're still walking around a mall. They've gone from one store out into the open mall. They haven't left the premises. Still would be considered theft. Again, aspiration need only be for a short amount of time or a small distance. And once there's aspiration, the voluntary return of the property can affect the guilt of the thief. In other words, if I steal something from you and I see the cops come in and I throw it back, here, you take it back, it's too late. I've already committed the theft. That's People versus Post. Now, with specific intent to permanently deprive the owner of the property. So this is another element, and what they're trying to tell you there is not necessary that the taking be for the sake of gain, just intention to deprive the person of the property. Specific intent must exist at the time of the taking, not at a later time. Here's an example. A kid walks up to another kid, grabs his CD player, throws it on the ground and smashes it. Now, in this example I just gave you, the kid's not taking it for gain. He's just being malicious, and he's taking it and he's depriving the person of it permanently by smashing it. A taking with the intention of returning the property or taking without the intent to permanently deprive the owner of his property will not amount to larceny, even though the accused, after gaining possession of the property, formed that intent. Meaning that if you grab something accidentally that's not yours, but you think it's yours, and when you get home, you take this coat, you realize it's not your coat, it's still not theft, because you had to have the intent at the time that you took it. There has to be that joint union of act and intent that we talked about in past chapters. If one is in good faith, takes the property of another, believing to be legally one's own, and they have the right to that possession, they're not guilty of theft because the specific intent is missing. That's People versus Photo. Now, to determine value of property, because pretty soon I explained that earlier that there's going to be these dollar amounts that determine whether or not it's a felony or a misdemeanor as to in regards to the theft. And in determining the value of services received, the contract price shall be that test to determine what that money is. To determine the value of property taken, the reasonable and fair market value shall be the test. And for retail stores, the retail value of the item taken, including property, the sales tax, can be tagged on, will determine the value of the property, because the retail store pays sales tax up front. They pay it ahead of time, quarterly, and they're responsible for collecting it from you when you buy the property from them. But if you steal it, you're also stealing the money for the property tax. Grand theft, defined under 47, is committed in the following cases: when the money, labor, or real or personal property taken is of a value exceeding
$950,
the fair market value of contract price. That means
$950.01.
exceeding, and that would be the correct number to have grand theft.
So $950 would still be petty theft.
The next
number you have to remember is if it exceeds $250.
And it's one of the specific things: domestic fowls, avocados, citrus fruit, various fruits, nuts, artichokes, or olives. These are things that are basically the California crops that are grown. And so to protect those crops, they place a lower amount.
If it exceeds $250.01.
1 cent of avocados. Avocados go for about $2.50 a pound, and if somebody steals
100 pounds,
would be grand theft. When we say domestic fowls, I mean chickens, and I don't mean packaged and processed chickens, but live chickens. Or ducks, or geese. Other fruits or vegetables, or fish, shellfish, kelp, algae, crustaceans, other agricultural products. San Francisco, you have people that are selling crab. The crab's been cooked. It's now on these trays. If a guy grabs a tray and runs down the street, he's got 20 of these. They're worth about
$15 each.
A felony or a misdemeanor. You have a felony because I already told you
it's over $950.
Except for this list of agricultural products and other products, fish and shellfish, if it's over
$250,
it's also a felony. So it could be fish, it could be tuna, it could be salmon. Or when the money, labor, real or personal property is taken by a servant, agent, or employee from his employer and aggregates
$950 or more
in any 12 consecutive months. Now, we just changed the rules on you again. What this says is there's some sort of a relationship between the employee and the employer. And the person is taking money from this person. And they're taking $50 a week. Because they know that if they take, over $400 or more, it's a felony, right? Now look at the difference on the number here. I told you before it says
over $950.
Now this section, 487 parentheses B parentheses 3, says
$950 or more.
I were to ask you the question, that John is working for Mr. Smithers, and he has been taking money from Mr. Smithers without Mr. Smithers' knowledge for the last year. He's been taking, actually for the last 10 months. He's
taking $100 a month.
Is this a felony or a misdemeanor? The answer is it's a felony because of the relationship. It's $400 or more, not over $400. Hopefully you got that. That's going to be on a test question for sure. Next example of felony theft would be 487 parentheses C, and this is when the property is taken from the person of another. Typically, you hear this we usually deal with pickpocketing, but for the purpose of this example, it could be where the person takes property that's in the person's control, a backpack that's at your feet, they grab it and they run. That would be felony theft from person. In that situation, as long as it's in your span of control, it's grand theft person. If you were to leave the backpack at a bus stop, walk across the street, realize it's gone or that it's there, go back, and the person grabs it before you get to it and runs, then it's going to be the value of the property in that backpack that's going to count. This next slide here shows that all farm animals, so most of the farm animals you see on a rancher farm, it's grand theft. So horses and cows and donkeys and lambs and hogs and boars and sheep and mules and jackasses and etc. All of those things are covered there. Grand theft firearm. Any circumstance where a firearm is taken. Definition of a firearm, it uses fixed ammunition, or it could be a black powder musket. That's always a felony. There's also a section for auto theft that you need to look up. I gave you some other research and review to look at. PC 484D, theft of access cards. 470, forgery, where you forge, you either change a document or sign somebody's name, fake somebody's name. That's always a felony. 45 is misappropriation of found property. I need you to read that and know that it's just like theft, but the difference is if you find property and there's the ability to locate the owner and you don't give it to the owner and you abscond it for your own use, that's theft. And you need to know the difference between a misdemeanor and felony.
And it's going to be the $850 rule.
PC 496 is receiving stolen property. 430.5 is theft by impersonation, ID theft. That's a misdemeanor. 532 is theft by false pretenses. It could be a misdemeanor or felony. And 537 is defrauding an innkeeper. You go to Denny's, you eat some food, and you skip out on the bill. And you need to know what it could be, a misdemeanor or felony. What is the difference? And again, it's going to be what the value of the property or service is taken or worth. PC 503 is embezzlement. Now, in embezzlement, it's where a person takes property when that property is entrusted to them. There's what we call a fiduciary relationship, meaning that I'm giving you my property to use in a certain way. You're taking this property and you're using it for yourself or your friends, or you're using it up. You're using up services, or you're taking my money. Next, we're going to talk about vehicle theft, 10851. There's two sections. I want you to find in the 487, you're going to find grand theft auto. And the difference between grand theft auto and the vehicle code section, 10851, is grand theft auto is used when they take the car and they chop the car up, or they ship the car out of the country, or they take it apart and sell it as parts. Vehicle theft, defined under 10851, is committed by a person who drives or takes a vehicle not their own, without the consent of the owner, and with specific intent to either permanently or temporarily deprive the owner of the title or possession of such vehicle. It could be where somebody just takes it for what we used to call a joyride. They're just going to go out and have a little ride in it and then dump the car. That's the same as stealing the car to permanently deprive. There's no distinction under this section. So again, the elements are driving or taking the vehicle that's not theirs without the consent of the owner, with specific intent to permanently or temporarily deprive the owner of title or possession of such vehicle. Examples could be, to permanently deprive would be where they keep filling up with gas. They never dump the car. They add other features onto the car that weren't there before. They steal some DVD screens and they stick them inside the vehicle. 499B is joyriding. It used to cover taking an automobile, but now it still exists, but it's for taking a bicycle or a vessel, meaning a boat, with intent to temporarily deprive. Section doesn't include an automobile, which is listed under 10851 and also 47, as I previously stated. Vandalism, 594 PC. It's a spray, scratch, write, or otherwise deface or damage or destroy real or personal property not your own. Classification: over $5,000 worth of damage is a wobbler. Parents are liable for up to $10,000 per child per act. A lot of times the punishment will be having to keep that area clean for up to a year, and the parents have to participate also.